Good evening, and welcome to our study tonight. Tonight, we're coming to you from Houston, where Cheryl and I are here for my radiation therapy. We'll be here for 1 month. So, we're doing this remotely. It's going back to Birmingham and then on to you. So, hopefully, there'll be no glitches in it, but we'll fix anything that comes up. Let's start within the news. Well, obviously, we're in a good shape. I think we have the death of woke. I like to say it croaked, because we're starting to see something really change in America and also around the world. This article comes to us. It says, Globalist New World Order delayed. The rebalancing of power as Trump returns. So he's obviously making some waves all over the planet. The return of President Donald Trump to the White House in January 2025 has sparked waves of concern and strategic recalibrations among leaders of globalist organizations and the United Nations itself. And that's a very good thing. Trump's anti-globalist stance is expected to impact the direction of international relations with UN leaders and globalist figureheads. So during Trump's initial term, his first term, the UN witnessed sharp cutbacks in U.S. funding and support. Trump's administration withdrew over $25 million in U.S. funding, targeting programs like the UN's Human Rights Council for its biased policies. And we expect that to happen again. The UN is shaking right now, wondering what Trump's going to do. The response from the international leaders extends, though, beyond the UN. Figures like the World Economic Forum's Yuval Harari have expressed an outright apprehension. Harari called Trump's victory a death blow to a new global order. Doesn't that sound good to you? A death blow to the New World Order. The WEF, a leading proponent of global governance, has faced mounting skepticism, particularly among conservative Americans who view the organization's goal as antithetical to American independence. So, a second Trump term would deliver a necessary blow to the WEF's attempts to influence global economic and environmental standards. Concerns are mounting within NATO as well. As we know from last time, Trump was looking for these European nations to step up and pay their fair share. Well, NATO now is kind of shaking because Trump will do the exact same thing. Trump's return places America's foreign policy at a crossroads. The UN and other globalist entities must now contend with the reality that Trump's America may once again be committed to prioritizing national sovereignty over multinational agreements. As we continue to go on, we can change slides. We'll tell you about this one. Social and political disasters should not be a surprise, this article says. In certain regions of the United Kingdom, the growing number of vacant desks in schools is growing. As birth rate drops, fewer younger people seek an education and enter the workforce to contribute to its tax base, all while other older people are living longer on national pensions. Obviously, that's going to be a crunch to their economy. Simultaneously, the cost of energy and transportation has increased for decades in the UK. Electricity costs in the UK are also much higher than those in the rest of Europe. Britain has failed to prepare for future demands for multiple reasons, including political reasons. They have wasted their time. A country needs leadership, and leadership requires the bravery to confront the inevitable. God warns us in the book of Proverbs, where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint. Proverbs 29:18. In many societies today, leaders lack vision. They prefer to focus on the joys and the benefits of the present and ignore the inevitabilities of the future. We're going to see that in our after study tonight with Lot and Sodom. The consequence of today's trends and decisions will come whether we want them to come or not. Jesus warned us that difficult times and his impending return will come at, quote, a day and hour no one knows, Matthew 24. That is why he warned us to watch and be ready. Let's go to the next slide as we go down to the economy. And this one has the Biden-Harris administration set a recession trap for Trump. So, the foundation of neo-Keynesian economics always rests on the idea that an economy must prioritize government spending, leading to full-blown socialism. Keynesian economics has the government intervening and inflating the economy with printed money. That's happened since the 1960s, when they used to support growth. I wonder if we could see that. The size of the government in the economy increases both during and after a recession. Taxes consequently rise, but debt rises faster. It's an upside down economic program. The Biden-Harris administration has followed exactly the policies of the Greek, Spanish, and French socialists into an election year prior to their country's crises. The strategy involves inflating the GDP through excessive government spending, which we've had, creating an uncontrollable deficit, which we have, during a period of economic recovery, and masking unemployment through governmental jobs financed by increased debt. In other words, they say that we're doing well because we have more governmental jobs. That's not necessarily the case. That's just masking the initial problem. The money results in the highest inflation in decades. Of course, now that the Harris Waltz team has lost the elections, Democrats can blame Trump and Vance for the recession that they've already engineered. One of the most common mistakes of center-right governments in developed economies is their lack of courage to really cut spending and taxes and restore economic logic, putting the private sector and productive investments at the forefront of the economy. That's why Trump is so smart in having Elon Musk and start this government program that will actually cut governmental spending. That is exactly what had to be done decades ago. And now hopefully it'll be done and Congress will enact the suggestions that they have. The United States must defend the US dollar and prioritize private sector growth to implement real pro-growth and pro-growth policies. It is essential that the next Treasury Secretary talks about the essential adjustments required by the economy and the reality of the time bomb inherited from the Biden administration. Bidenomics was an upside-down approach to economics, and the United States requires supply-side strategies to restore productivity, wealth, and genuine prosperity. That's exactly what Trump is on the brink of doing. Sound money and a responsible government budget, supported by lower taxes and reduced bureaucratic expenditures, cutting the government debt down, are the only options to strengthen American economy. DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency, will actually implement that, should they be given some teeth. Let's go on to the next slide, and we're going to go underneath religion. Scientists decode world's oldest map, points to Noah's Ark's location. Look at that chart that's up there. That is a map that comes right from scientists. Listen to it. A discovery of absolutely epic proportions has just been revealed, but the corporate media in the United States almost entirely ignored it, of course. A team of scientists led by Dr. Irvin Finkel has deciphered the oldest map in the world. We are being told that it actually reveals the location of Noah's Ark. This should be all over the news. Unfortunately, it's not. It's huge news, but the corporate media in our country is so focused on the presidential election and the aftermath that they barely took notice of it. Fortunately, many foreign news outlets published featured stories about this amazing discovery. For example, the following comes from the Jerusalem Post. Scientists have recently unlocked the secrets of the world's oldest map, a 3,000-year-old clay tablet known as the Imago Mundi, which is believed to show the location of Noah's Ark. The ancient Babylonian artifact, etched with cuneiform, a script using wedge-shaped symbols, has puzzled archaeologists for centuries. Discovered in what is now Iraq in 1882, the tablet is housed in the British Museum, where it has become one of its famous collections. The Imago Mundi depicts a circular world map, including early Babylonian ideas of the world's creation. The map is thought to show the entire known world at the time, with Mesopotamia at the bottom center. This ancient Babylonian artifact deeply puzzled researchers for decades, but now the code has finally been cracked, and the reverse side of the artifact contains incredibly stunning information. It appears on other ancient Babylonian texts, referencing the scale of a vessel meant to withstand the legendary Great Flood, and an ancient Mesopotamian poem recounting a family like Noah's who landed an ark and preserved life following a 150-day flood. And if you look at scripture, that's exactly what it says. Remember, this is Babylonian. As the flooding ended, they were safely stationed on one of the peaks of Urartu, which aligns with Ararat, the Hebrew term for the mountain where Noah's Ark is said to have come and rest after the flood. According to Dr. Finkel, there's no doubt that Ararat is the Hebrew equivalent to the Assyrian Urartu. The first place you come to is called Urartu. It's drawn on the map. Now, the interesting thing about that is that in the Bible, Noah in his ark landed on a mountain where the name is Ararat, and Ararat is the Hebrew equivalent of the Assyrian Urartu. That's quite a meaty thing, quite an interesting thing to think about, because it shows that the stories are the same. And of course, that one led to the other also, that the Babylonian point of view, this was a matter of fact, said Finkel. He added, if you did go on this journey, you would see the remnants of this historic boat, which saved all the life of the world for a long-term future. This is one of the biggest archaeological bombshells in history, and a British museum has released a video which Dr. Finkel shares more details about this remarkable discovery. So if Noah's Ark really did come to rest in Urartu, is it still there? Well, if you go to the region today, there's a geological formation that you're looking at on that chart that matches the exact dimensions of Noah's Ark that we are given in the Bible almost perfectly. For decades, this feature alone has drawn adventurers, scientists, and ark enthusiasts to the region, hoping that its natural wonder could be the key to unlocking the truth behind one of the Bible's most enduring stories. The physical characteristics of the site align closely with biblical description of the ark: a length of 300 cubits, a width of 50 cubits, and a height of 30 cubits. Was it merely a natural formation, or could it truly be petrified remains, petrified wood of the legendary ark? In order to answer this, the researchers began collecting nearly 30 samples of soil and rock from the exact site, each carefully chosen to help unlock the geological secrets of the mound. The scientific test determined that the samples of the rock and soil were, quote, between 3,500 and 5,000 years old, and this matches what we would expect if Noah's Ark really is sitting inside the Durupar formation. Pretty amazing. Also, we know that large amounts of petrified wood are inside the Durupar foundation and formation. So needless to say, so many other historical accounts in the Bible have also been confirmed by archaeologists in recent years. In fact, I point out in here that archaeology and the Bible have never contradicted each other. Never. So what will it take for skeptics to finally admit the truth? When the Bible speaks on matters of history, it is always 100% accurate. As for Noah's Ark, it still exists, and it's waiting to be excavated. Let's go a little bit further, and let's go down to moral decay, and this one. Transgender pastor claims Bible wasn't written for 2024. A California-based transgender pastor, Drew Stever, is stirring controversy after an interview with the Daily Mail in which he claimed, quote, the Bible wasn't written for 2024. Stever, who identifies as a transgender man, serves at Hope Lutheran Church in Hollywood, California, part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, the ELCA, which, by the way, in my opinion, isn't a church at all. In the interview, Stever stated that he believes traditional interpretations of gender, as outlined in the Bible, are outdated. What gives him the right to say that he's more in tune with the Bible than the writers of the Bible, or the apostles, or the prophets? Stever is just the latest in a series of pastors with the ELCA who distort the Word of God. Notably, failed vice presidential candidate Minnesota Governor Tim Walz attends an ELCA church, reflecting the denomination's influence and teachings, as Governor Walz is known for promoting LGBT causes as part of his Lutheran faith. So, other ELCA pastors, such as Nadia Bowles-Weber, have made headlines for their controversial views also. She encouraged youth attendees to embrace a queerness as beautiful. Known for her explicit language and swearing during her sermons, Bowles-Weber has aimed to redefine holiness. She also denies that the death of Jesus on the cross was sacrificial for us, and atonement is an out-of-date issue. Man, I don't know when, but I hope these people are defrocked or dethroned or thrown out, because basically they don't stand for Christianity at all. Let's go a little bit further and talk to you about technology. Under technology, you will see this one. Global internet at risk. World leaders threaten to disrupt undersea cables. The U.S. is accusing Russia of preparing to cut undersea cables which carry internet traffic all over the world. And Russia is accusing Western powers of preparing to do the exact same thing. I'm going to update this because just today I found out that Russia did cut some undersea cables between Sweden and the UK. And so these undersea cables are extremely important. It means that they are exceedingly vulnerable targets, and it's probably just a matter of time before someone decides to attack the major ones. Needless to say, such a scenario would have the potential to turn apocalyptic very, very quickly. there has been an increased Russian military activity around key undersea cables. General Staff Main Directorate for Deep Sea Research is known by its Russian acronym GUGI. And basically, Russia is continuing to develop naval capabilities for undersea sabotage, mainly through GUGI, a closely guarded unit that operates surface vessels, submarines, and Navy drones. On the other side, the Russians are suggesting that's exactly what the United States and the UK are doing and preparing to start attacking undersea internet cables. So who's telling the truth? Well, I actually don't know. But what I do know is that these undersea internet cables are incredibly important to the economies of the world and to the future of the world. Undersea cables, also known as submarine cables, are the physical infrastructure that connects the digital world. What would happen if all the undersea cables connecting a particular country to the internet suddenly got cut off? Well, first, there would be no access to phone calls, video messaging, or streaming services. There would be a financial impact. E-commerce would be affected, and the stability of financial networks would be at risk. 3, critical infrastructure would be impacted. Power grids, transportation networks, and water networks could be affected. 4, country-wide impact. A country could be severed from the internet. Can you imagine that? Which would impact banking, business, and health networks. 5, repair delays. It could take months to repair these cables. Sounds really bad. Over the past 2 decades, our entire economy has become increasingly dependent on the internet and these cables. If we were suddenly cut off from the rest of the globe, there would be widespread economic chaos. Payment systems, ATMs would be down. Trillions of dollars would be wiped off the European and U.S. economies as banks would be unplugged from the global financial system, with economic effects felt across the world. Workplaces and businesses that rely on the internet would also go down. Educational institutions would struggle to conduct online learning, impeding students' education and limiting access to knowledge, to resources. E-commerce would also take a hit, and exacerbating the disruptions to supply chains and shortages of essential goods. Brick and mortar stores would be cut off from communication with suppliers, limiting access to food and other essential supplies. You get the picture. If someone just cut a few of these cables, we would suddenly be facing the biggest disaster for the U.S. economy since World War II. That's how vulnerable we are. And a precedent has already been set. Just 2 years ago, someone sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline that delivered Russian gas to Europe. So on the other side, I think we have entered a time when globalists in the Western world have become so desperately, they're literally, nothing is off the table. Right now, our world is more interconnected than ever, but that could change at any moment. Once someone decides to start cutting cables, things will really get crazy. So enjoy the internet you have while you still can, but also prepare for the day when you will no longer be able to depend upon it. Now, we could be cut short in a heartbeat. Let's go on a little bit further in technology. The next one, AI is swallowing up electricity. You never hear this. As world leaders push the green agenda, the growing elephant in the room is artificial intelligence. What few realize is that AI systems require gigantic computer warehouses that consume massive amounts of electricity, and power generators and their associated infrastructure can't be built overnight. According to a recent report, AI demand could strain the U.S. electrical grid in the coming decade. In fact, data centers in the United States alone could consume as much power by 2030 as some industrial national economies. These computer warehouses could require up to 400 terawatt hours of electricity by the end of this decade. I know you don't know what a terawatt is. It's a lot of watts. More than the total electricity production of the United Kingdom in 2022. Recently, Larry Ellison, the chairman of the co-founder of Oracle and one of the world's richest men, said that he is planning a data center that will require over 1 gigawatt of power to run, equivalent to the energy consumption of a medium-sized city. Ellison claimed he will power this data center by building 3 small modular nuclear reactors, commenting, "This is how crazy it's getting." The potential of AI to disrupt aging power grids only increases society's vulnerability to risks such as terror attacks and on a large computer warehouse where it generates resources. So you can see how vulnerable we are. I've been reading you some things and telling you some articles that talks about our cables, underground cables, our internet, AI, the power grids. We are extremely vulnerable, not to mention solar flares, just things that cybersecurity. I mean, we are in a very, very vulnerable state in our world. And let me go back and tell you this one. I think I have a picture. I have to go backwards to show you. This is under science, and it's this one. It has a man and a woman on a park bench. Has life expectancy peaked? Mankind has long desired to live forever. Yet finding the fountain of youth has been very elusive. While life expectancy rates have increased greatly in Western nations since the widespread availability of clean water supplies and sanitation facilities, such advances, along with the miracles of modern medicine, seem to be approaching a limit in their effectiveness at lengthening the human lifespan much further. We've reached a plateau, is what this article says. This is the finding of a recent study published in the highly respected journal Natural Aging. So, researchers studying life expectancy in 8 places in the world where people live the longest have concluded we are reaching a plateau. In the last 30 years, the rate of life expectancy increase in these places has slowed from an additional 2.5 years per decade to 1.5 years per decade today. Researchers also noted that although we're seeing more people reach 100 years of age than we used to see, there are also many, many more people on the earth. And the percentage of the population reaching this age has remained the same or even gone down. One researcher commented, we're squeezing less and less life out of these life-extended technologies, and the reason is aging is getting in the way. It appears that God had put a cap on aging that scientists, with all their wisdom and ingenuity, cannot overcome. Living forever is not a gift God intended for humanity to bestow on itself, nor is it his plan that we figure out some way of achieving it. However, excuse me, the Bible reveals that God does intend to grant the gift of unending life to those who choose to follow his Son and live according to his way. That's in the news for tonight. We're going to go.